right, we are live. What's up, everybody? Happy Wednesday. Hope everybody is doing well. Just gonna adjust this a little bit. If you can hear me okay, please put a 1 in the chat. Just fix that. And test my audio here. Okay, perfect. All right. Hope everybody's doing well. Welcome if you're new to the channel. Oh, I got an itch. If you're new to the channel, welcome. I am Chris with Monsters Under Our Bed. We cover true crime, mystery to the missing. Today we're going to be covering more Delphi. We'll be going over the latest updates. I found a video from one of the local channels out there in Delphi, or Indiana, I should say. And they had a recent YouTube video which kind of explains everything in about 3 minutes as far as the court stuff. And for me, that's not my my best thing as far as when it comes to the court stuff. They explain it quite well, so I thought I'd take that snippet from that video. Also, Court TV had an interview with this lady who knows a lot about like the heathenry, religion, Odinist, and stuff like that. It was very interesting. So I also took some snippets of that, and she kind of explains a little bit of just the background of it, and then also what the patches mean and stuff like that, and how more common than you may think they are, which is very interesting. So, and then also, for anyone that's new to the Delphi case, we will definitely touch on the timeline. I actually got everything put together. And then also, I'm always going through the affidavits and stuff and uncovering new things that I overlooked, little sentences that didn't mean much at one point and now could hold a lot more information. So excited to share that with you guys. So let's get going. But before we get started, we always like to give back by featuring the missing. So give me 1 second. Here we go. All right. So today's missing, we have Cassidy Foxworth. She's a missing old, believed to be a runaway. She is 5'8", 150 pounds. Blonde hair, green eyes. It says Foxworth was last seen around 10 p.m. on November 23rd. So it's been 6 days. And I tried to see if there was an update. It doesn't look like there has been. So such a terrible time to be going missing right around Thanksgiving. Absolutely terrible. So this is in Lutz, Florida. This is Cassidy Foxworth. Don't have a phone number, but obviously if you have any information, you can call your local police department. All right, so let's get going here. Good to see everybody. Of course, shout out to my wonderful mods, Jocelyn, D, Karen, Copper Horse. I don't know if she's in here yet. A lot of my mods, they mod for a lot of channels. They do amazing work. And also Jennifer, who is unfortunately had surgery recently, and it's a terrible time of the year to be trying to recover from surgery. So well wishes to her. All right, let's see, is this the one? This should be the right one.
Back on February.
All right. So let me get this fixed up here. And so like I said, we'll recap the timeline. It's pretty quick for anybody that's new to the case. I see some new people that just subscribed. Welcome if you're a new subscriber. Thank you so much. Actually, on Monday we covered a case, Gwen Brunel, which I may do an update on, and it may be a case that we will probably or hopefully get involved with early next year as far as actually going out and searching for. So all right, let's play this, and I'm going to read the chat here.
Of 2017, 2 teenage girls, Abby Williams and Liberty German, had made last-minute plans to go to the Monon High Bridge, which was supposed to be a teenage hangout with a historic trail and a really high old abandoned bridge. The two girls, who were best friends, just had a sleepover the night before and were excited when Libby's sister, Kelsey German, said she would drop them off as long as the two girls found a ride home, which they did. Although it was February, the temperature was nice for that day, and even though it was a Monday, they had school off that day. The two girls, Abby and Libby, would be dropped off just before 2 p.m., where they planned on only staying for a couple of hours. The two teens, Abby and Libby, would begin walking the 501 trail to the Monon High Bridge. As the two would approach the bridge, Libby, who had her iPhone, would take two pictures, one as they passed the first platform, and another which shows Abby looking down as she is crossing the scary, tall, gap-filled railroad tie. The girls didn't know it yet, but they were not alone. As a few hours would go by, the father of Libby, Derek German, would show up, but the two girls were not at the meetup spot. Thinking that the two teens just lost track of time, he would end up calling Libby's phone. The phone was ringing, but no one was answering. He would begin searching for the two teens, but when running into other people, no one had seen them. Eventually, the authorities would be called out, and this would lead to a search party looking for the two girls. But sadly, there was no sign of them on that first night of the 13th. With the search being called off late that night for safety reasons, it would be resumed early that next day. They brought in helicopters, divers, and many other resources to scour the area. But just around noon that day, they would soon discover a grisly scene. Authorities would discover the two girls across the river and both had...
All right, I had to mute it there because I used the word red rum and YouTube doesn't like that word. Laylee, thank you so much for becoming a member and supporting this channel. Thank you so much. You're so awesome. Thank you so much. Lisa says, holy crap, my ads was about red triangles. You know, my ads usually, whatever I say or even in my shows, because one of the times we were talking about Hoover vacuums, and then the next ad I get was Hoover vacuums. And then the other day when we were talking about Mercury and Ford, I keep getting Ford truck commercials. So they're definitely listening. It's crazy. So anyway, Junior says, I think they went there to meet someone, not just on a walk. It's quite possible. I mean, they definitely, it seems like this was kind of a last minute decision. Like something, yeah. And I think the Kagan Klein investigation speaks into that there was possibly an angle that they were brought out there by somebody, hoping maybe to meet somebody out there. Definitely see that plausible. So this was a combination of something I made the last week and a half. It's an overview map, but I now added the on-site visuals as well, which I combined in this, which is a more deeper, in-depth timeline of all the witnesses and even Richard Allen's statement all put together in one. And so it would start out, which actually, if you look at the time, so if you guys know, I'm familiar with the case. Obviously, Richard Allen supposedly in his first interview, he said he was there from 1:30 to 3:30, which lines up with his car being seen at 1:27, and the witnesses seeing him just after 1:30, and then supposedly he changes his time. Apparently, we didn't know in the affidavit, but according to the Frank's motion, he's apparently says now he was there from noon to 1:30. Kind of thinking about this, these witnesses may be crucial to that possibly debunking it or confirming, depending on where you sit as far as that, because it seems like these girls, I would think, because I'm going to play this, but I think they were there at the very least from noon to, let's see, take the picture. I think they were there from at least noon to like 1:45 ish, approximately, kind of depending on where you end the, if the Freedom Bridge would be the endpoint, but they were walking towards, they were on the trail at approximately 12:30. And we know this because obviously they were interviewed, but they also took a picture when they got to the bridge at 12:30. This is the picture that Libby took, but I think that one, I'm not sure. There was another one that circulated on the internet. It might have been that one, but it looked pretty much just like this. That one of the witnesses took, but it was obviously time stamped at 12:43. So clearly, if they walked from like the Freedom Bridge, that's a good 20, 30 minutes, especially if they're going to, kind of hang out and stuff. Then we don't know exactly what they did at the bridge. Did they walk on the bridge for a bit? But eventually they would turn back, and then at about 1:20, they would be getting closer to the Freedom Bridge. We know this because at 1:26, they would approach that circle at the east entrance, and at 1:26, they would take a picture. And right as they're taking that picture at 1:27, depending on where you sit, either Richard Allen or a black Ford Focus is seen heading westbound at 1:27 past the Hoosier Harp Store camera. Now, if Allen did, if he is allegedly responsible and left from home, he wouldn't have taken the easy route, which would have been 6 minutes with him just going up and where the blue line is here. He would have had to be seen going west on the camera, he would have had to actually take this route, which is about 10 minutes. It takes you around the back end here. So, and that's just assuming he came from home. Who knows? He could have came from, something else prior to this. But this would be what the drive would look like. Now I got this from indiearchive.org. They do a lot of videos. I won't try to get a link in the description after I'm done, but they have a lot of videos of Delphi at the crime scene, drives like this, the walk. They've pretty much recorded just about every kind of different trip, so they've done an amazing job with that. And they've also done a lot of drone work, I think, as well. It's pretty cool. So these two pictures are the Mears parking lot. This is where Abby and Libby would have been dropped off by Kelsey. And this is also where Betsy Blair, one of the more important witnesses, I mean, they're all important, of course, but that's where she would have parked. But this would have been kind of what the suspect or Richard Allen would have seen as he was passing the Mears parking lot, and then he would be captured at the Hoosier Hobbs store. Now this was taken in 2022, so the Hoosier Hobbs store, they are no longer at this location. They are nearby. They're just a little bit north of this location. If anybody's wondering what their company is, apparently they are kind of like repairmen, and obviously they do repair work for like agricultural stuff and like that. But it looks like they moved their shop north since 2017. But at that time, that's where their shop is located. And they had a security camera, I'm going to assume somewhere near that garage there. And here I kind of put an example. You can almost see something white on there where it could have been the previous mount of the camera. But then, of course, this is what it looked like as he would approach the turn. Obviously, the four juveniles would have been just on the other side of this house, which is where the Circle of the East Freedom Bridge was. And this is quite a fairly sharp corner. And I don't think you would have been able to see them from this spot just because of the trees and the lower altitude that or lower elevation that the East Freedom Bridge sits at. But this is where the building would have been right here, and this is where the suspicious car would have parked. So this is when the suspect would have kind of seen, except obviously a building would be there. This would happen at approximately 1:29. He would park, and of course, the building would have been to the right. This is kind of what it would look like. Now here is a picture of it literally on February 14th, a day after the girls were sadly taken. And we kind of speculated in chat, and we kind of did a poll. Of course, throughout the day, there would be multiple witnesses that saw a suspicious car backed in there, mentioning a PT Cruiser, small SUV, a dark smart car, and then the anomaly would be the 65 Mercury Comet, which we've talked about, but here's just kind of look at all those cars. You can see from afar that this is actually a picture of Alan's home, and that is his Ford Focus, and from that view, especially if you guys are on the phone, you could see how that could be mistaken for a PT Cruiser. But another shot of that, like I said, we polled our audience, and a lot of us believed that he was probably backed in right here where my mouse is at. You would have some foliage and some trees, which would really conceal the vehicle. So, some people might think he could have been parked there, but I think this makes the most sense. And then just something that I noticed that nobody had mentioned seeing the vehicle when they were arriving, only that when they were leaving, which means that the building itself, or where the car was at, obscured the view from people that were arriving. So this is, if he got out, this is what it would look like. Now this is taken in 2022, so it changed a little bit, but there would have been a walk path right here that he would have obviously started walking after getting out of the car. Dog Defender, has anyone mentioned that the Odinists are a biker gang? No, but it wouldn't surprise me. We are, like I said, we are definitely, if you're just coming in, we are going to be talking about the Odinists. I found a video of a lady who is in the heathenry religion, and knows quite a bit about the Odinists and stuff like that, and she explains it quite well. And so that'll be in about maybe 10 minutes from now. We'll have her interview, and I thought it was really interesting for someone who's, I'm not, I believe in the afterlife, but I don't, never had a particular religion. But yeah, we will definitely get into that a little bit as well. Oh, here's just a look as Richard Allen, or the suspect, would be approaching the little circle area here. The four witnesses would have been still here, and this is where they all kind of meet up here, and the girls are standing, and they notice that a guy walking by with blue jeans and a blue jacket, kind of in a rush with his head down. One even tries to say hi to him, but he does not reply.
I would assume that the reason why this guy did not speak is because obviously four witnesses, they could have, uh, you know, recognized his voice possibly. But it would have been something like this. This would have taken place around 138 approximately. Um, in general, the four juveniles. Oops, let me go back real quick. Um, for the most part, they explain as far as clothing, it's the same thing. Most of them use the same color blue. One uses black. For the most part, they explain pretty much more or less blue jeans and a blue jacket, and what looks to be, and he's got a hoodie underneath his jacket. But they claim he has his head down, walking with a purpose, did not respond to them. And what's kind of interesting is if you go off Alan's original statement, which we believe was taken into February 16. Now, that's just rumor, that's not fact. But a lot of people are trying to look up based on some different information. They believe this is around the time when he got his original interview where he kind of supposedly came forward to Dan Doolin. But it's interesting. He mentions 3 females, even though there was 4. But he even gives a description saying that one was taller, one had brown or black hair. But the main things that you match up with what the girls say is that he did not speak to them. That's coming from Ellen, which corresponds with what the witnesses said, that he did not speak with them. Both mentioning the Freedom Bridge, east side of the Freedom Bridge. And the other thing I thought was kind of interesting is it kind of makes sense that he mentions 3 and not 4, because maybe, if he did have his head down and he was kind of in a rush, especially, he didn't, these are witnesses, so he really wants to kind of get past them. He doesn't, is probably not wanting to run into them. And so he may not have been paying attention to how many girls there were, especially if, like, there was 2 sisters there. So maybe, someone's going to be taller, someone's going to be shorter. So maybe it's possible that he only saw 3 because, one was maybe standing in the back of them, or maybe they were spread out. Who knows? I mean, different scenarios. But just all kind of, to me, between his statements and the witnesses, there's a mini that kind of line up. Then Richard Allen, or the suspect, continues on his way while the girls would start walking across the Freedom Bridge as they were leaving. Anna, good to see you. Friends, classmates of Libby and Abby had hoped to meet up with them at the trails. Libby and Abby arrived just after their friends had left. I think some of these kids will be witnesses. Yes, one of them, which is interesting you mentioned this, because I do have something else that we'll talk about at the end that I'm going to save. And I'm not going to mention her full name, even though you can look it up. But Bree, one of those 4 juveniles, her her brother was Kelsey's boyfriend. Correct me if I'm wrong. Check. She's got a connection to Bree. Kelsey does, not Libby, but Kelsey, Libby's sister. So. So they would have probably known each other, but because obviously this is a very small town. So this would the suspect, Richard Allen, would continue his way, and at about this time, the girls would be they'd be across the Freedom Bridge, and then there's a secondary bridge which goes over the country road. And then Blair would have seen them, and then she would have whipped around, and now she would be arriving at about, she would actually be caught on camera at 1:46, arriving at the Mirrors parking lot. Now, she claims she didn't see any other cars there, which I think could be true. Um, and I think just after she arrives and gets out and starts walking the trail is literally when obviously the girls would show up. But so this would be kind of her arriving, while the suspect, or Richard Allen, would be now kind of approaching the bridge. And here is where the two trails, if you don't know, there's two trails. There's the 501, 505. The meaning behind 501 and 505 is this, that's how many steps the trail takes, apparently. So I think as Betsy's walking, Alan or the suspect would be approaching the bridge right now. Obviously, the bridge doesn't look like that at the time. This is what it looks like now. And right as that's all happening is when the girls would arrive at 150. They would be dropped off, and Kelsey would leave. So now we have the girls and Betsy pretty much on their way to the bridge, while the suspect, or Alan, is apparently on the bridge, and according to him, on platform 1. And that would be right at the time as when Betsy would approach and see a man standing on the first platform. So we look at the two statements. At the top is let's see. Yeah, the top is Richard Allen. Sorry, make sure. He says he walked out on the first platform of the bridge. Then he stated he walked back, sat on the trail, and left. According to him, he didn't see anybody else except for the 3 juveniles at the beginning. And he said that he was wearing blue jeans, blue or black Carhartt jacket with a hood. Also, Betsy, she claims the same thing. She saw a guy standing on the first platform. Not one, not two, not two, not three, not four, not six. There's 6 platforms. Both corroborating first platform. She would see the man and turn around. It's possible that Alan may have, or the suspect may have, intentions for that witness, and maybe could have been starting to follow her. And about this time is when Witness and Libby and Abby would pass each other. So now those two pass, and I think just about after that they would pass Richard Allen or the suspect not long after. And now you have Allen and Betsy probably approaching her car now, and the suspect would know that, okay, and he may have went all the way to the Mears parking lot, towards the Mears parking lot entrance, and noticed, okay, she's gone. There's nobody else here. I know that there's 2 girls here, and they're at a dead end. They're going to have to come back. So this could be where he commits and would then start approaching. And then, of course, sorry, I should have slowed that down. But, as the girls were on the bridge, they took 2 pictures. One just of the bridge, and then one of Abby, where she's approaching platform 3 at 2:09. And then clearly the suspect is making a bunch of headway and starts getting on the bridge. And then at 2:13 is when the video starts. And from there, I should have slowed that down a little bit. It's believed that they went down the hill. There's 2 scenarios. Either the girls attempted to run across the river in an attempt to escape, or he forced the girls across the river. But either way, they would make it across the river. Here is a look Where I'm circling on my mouse is where approximately the center of the crime scene was. So somewhere around here is kind of where things went down, sadly. But this is the area they would have crossed. Now this is taken in 2022, I believe. So the water level that we're seeing now is slightly a little bit lower than what it was in 2017, because you can see more of the islands and stuff in the middle. Here's just kind of a look from 2022 of the crime scene. But a lot of leaves, a lot of sticks on the ground. It wouldn't have been hard to obviously find sticks to lay on the bodies. Obviously, we're not going to get too much into that because we've covered that area quite a bit. Definitely want to take a break from that, but this is just kind of that. So at sometime probably about 3:30, I would think the suspect or Richard Allen would have started to leave the crime scene. It's rumored or believed that he could have exited out the cemetery way or nearby, and we would have our final witness, Sarah, who was seen at 3:57 on Hoosier's Harv store camera approaching, going eastbound, and she would see somebody on the north side of the road walking the opposite direction who was described as muddy and bloody, wearing blue jeans and a blue jacket. But then, of course, in the Frank's memo, they say that she said tan, and she only said muddy. So it'd be interesting to know what she actually said. Or in my theory, it's quite possible she could have just said, appeared like he had blue jeans and a blue jacket, but I also saw tan, he's muddy. So could they be, taking what she said out of context? And she was like, well, yeah, it kind of looked dark brown, tan, because of the mud, just a theory. Hey, Jazzy, there, girl. Hey, Mob Crew Mobsters. Hope everyone's doing great. Good to see you. So, yeah, here was just a picture, that I did. Just taking some pictures of people that got muddy with their jackets with different colors. And, it's quite possible. This is, and obviously, this is wet mud, so dry mud would look a little bit different. But it's quite possible she could have seen something like this. And so maybe she was describing the jacket as kind of blue and tan, or, and then they just said, oh, well, she used the word tan. So here's just another look at the escape. The suspect would have probably, we don't know exactly the direction he would have went. I'm sure after the witness drove by, I'm sure he was probably panicked and either cut for the tree line back inside towards the trails, I would probably assume, and that's why he wasn't seen on the Harv store camera walking by. I'm going to skip this. So now, we're going to get back to this. Okay. So we'll get back to this because this is what I explained earlier, that I keep coming across little statements from witnesses that, at the time didn't mean much, but we'll definitely get back into that. And this way I can actually check out the chat here. But if you're in here, we got 300 people in here. Thank you guys so much. If you could, please hit that like button if you haven't already. It really helps. Really appreciate the support. So now what we have is this lady here in the middle, in the red. I forget her name, but very sweet. So she's in the heathenry religion, and I might be butchering that. I don't know. Obviously, I am completely naive to this particular religion. Don't know much about it. But she is someone that knows quite a bit. She runs, I think, part of an organization, and she explains quite a bit about just the different stuff that they used in the Frank's motion and what the terms that they were using, what they actually mean, even though what they may be interpreting in the Franks may be different to what obviously she interpreted. But she breaks it down pretty well, and it's very interesting. So go ahead and play this interview. And then if you don't recognize, we got on the left, we got Bob Moda from the Defense Diaries. I know a lot of people, especially that may believe Richard Allen is innocent. I know he's been doing great work arguing for the defense's side. And then on the right, we have a local to my state, Profiling Evil. One of these days, I've got to reach out to him, and I would love to have him on the channel. But yeah, he's from Salt Lake as well. He's somebody that's interviewed someone like Richard Ramirez, which is really cool. He's got a book out. I think he's got a couple of books. You can actually see him behind him right here. But anyway, I'll stop rambling on, and I'm going to let her kind of explain some of this Odinism stuff. And it's very, very interesting.
Explain it is Odinism is a prison gang. It is a gang that disguises itself as a religion. Odinism, specifically in prisons, started by a woman named Elsa Christensen in the early 1980s in Florida. And their sole purpose for gathering as a religion was so that they could have cover to then talk about white supremacist political activity and other activity with impunity.
So this is, I found a picture of Elsa Christensen. And I forget what age she was. I think she was in her 40s at the time, but she grew up in Denmark, or was born in Denmark, and would eventually go to Canada, but she did come here to the U.S., particularly in Florida, and she would actually end up going to, I don't know if it's prison or whatever, I believe prison, because she was transporting H in marijuana, which now is, badly looked upon as it was back then. But yeah, she was arrested for that. But I guess she's considered the grandmother of this kind of racial organization built in the prison, which is kind of wild.
So Odinism is, think of it as Odinism, if you think about it, it's the Westboro Baptist Church of Germanic and Norse paganism, which all of the things we're talking about right now fall under kind of this umbrella of Germanic and Norse paganism. Germanic in the sense of Germanic languages. So you think of Anglo-Saxon, Frankish, Aramaic, all of these tribes that existed pre-Christianity in Northern Europe. So then you have Asatru. Asatru and Odinism are not the same thing. Asatru in the United States, I'm speaking specifically in the United States because it is different in Europe, is a racist but not white supremacist gang racist form of paganism. So they believe that to be a Norse pagan, that should be allowed to people with Norse descent, so white people essentially. You have to be white enough. And then you have heathenry. So heathenry is a blanket term. I practice what's called inclusive heathenry. And
it's so weird to hear that word heathenry. It sounds so bad, Oh, you heathens, it's crazy. But this is, she's going to, I don't know if she just said it. I was kind of watching the chat, but she says it's one of the most popular growing religions.
We believe anyone can be heathen. As we say, we're not so arrogant to think we know who the gods are going to call, right? We're not going to try to tell our gods what to do. And so The problem that I'm seeing in here is, first of all, Odinite is not a thing. I don't know where they come up with this. It's a mineral. It's found in like sedimentary areas. I have a geology background, so the first time I read that, I was very confused as to why they were talking about rocks. But also, I think one important thing is to remember is that Odinism is present anywhere that there's racism, because it's not a religion. It's a gang that is in prisons using the guise of religion to be able to gather and do gang activity.
God.
And that kind of makes sense, because obviously there's cliques, and obviously I'm totally out of line when speaking, because it's something that I've never dealt with: jail, prison, anything like that. I've had 2 traffic tickets in my life, but yeah, I have never dealt with the law or anything like that, so it's definitely out of my wheelhouse. But I mean, clearly, through shows and documentaries and stuff like that, there's clearly cliques, and yeah, it sounds like this is kind of something that's just been ongoing for a long
I mean,
time.
that's
to somehow get across.
But she's going to come back and speak a little bit more about the actual patches, which is really interesting, because we know that there was guards that admitted to wearing the patches, and what do the patches really mean? And I think she has a great explanation of this. But here, I wanted to play a clip from Profiling Evil, which he's obviously got a YouTube channel, and he's local to Salt Lake. But yeah, he kind of describes a little bit about the crime scene and what he thinks of it. It's kind of interesting.
Messaging. We also know that criminals can go in and create a crime scene. They go from a very organized state to this very disorganized state where we see all kinds of bizarre things happening, but then go through a process of staging where they spend some time maybe sharing things that they saw. We saw it with Richard Ramirez. Remember that pentagram that he kept writing on the wall? He told me personally he was never a Satanist at first, but it became good business. So we got to keep in mind, is this an artifact of what was really going on? If this was truly a group of people who were going through ritual crime, I think we'd see evidence in other locations to support it, not just relationships or a video that came out that somebody, including Richard Allen, could have seen and recreated on the fly in the middle of a crime scene. We have to look at this thing in totality and not get sucked into these individual pieces of really amazing pieces of evidence and information, because we can go down rabbit holes that completely cause us to forget all the facts and just twist everything we're seeing to fit whatever goofy theory.
And that's not goofy theory. I agree at like 99% what he just said there. I would say that a lot of people have interesting theories. It may not be goofy, but I totally agree with yeah, going down rabbit holes. And I've done that with other, not this particular case, but other cases. I can't mention it because I don't know if YouTube like it. But there was one back in the day that I was in a big conspiracy nut on a particular incident that happened for a long time. And then finally I started looking on the other side of things. And then it, you know, but yeah, I've been sucked down it.
We were coming up with, and I guess this is what really.
But yeah, here is, you know, some of the patches, Odin we trust, and so here's her explaining it, and I think explained quite well for somebody like myself who doesn't know anything about this kind of stuff.
No, I am president of the largest organization. We have 2,500 members around the world. The church in Iceland, for instance, has over 1,000 members. I think more than that now. It's actually, paganism as a whole is one of the fastest growing religions in the world. And it especially draws people who are very into military, first responders. Those people tend to be very drawn into it because of the warrior aspects, the in Odin we trust thing, very common.
And that totally makes sense. Anybody watch the Vikings series season on the History Channel? Amazing show. Kind of when they lost the main character, it wasn't as good. But the first like 3, 4 seasons were amazing. And Valhalla and stuff. And I could definitely see people kind of getting into that kind of type of thing. It's Yeah, Vikings. Yeah. Um, what what rabbit hole, Chris? I don't know if I should mention it. Yeah, maybe I'll mention it at the end of the show. I'll give you a little sneak peek at the end. It's just because I'm afraid I don't know if YouTube will pick up that. I'll have to think of a way to work around it, but I'll mention it at the end of the show.
Among those patches are very common among military, first responders, police, like who are heathen. It is a way for them to say, I'm putting my life in. To put it in Christian terms, I'm trusting God and putting my life in His hand as I go out and do my job today. Is what those patches mean. It's the same as saying, Jesus bless me today.
I think that's fascinating. And to me, that makes a lot of sense. Let me know what you guys think in the chat. But I mean, yeah, it sounds like military uses certain aspects. I mean, you can look it up. It's not hard to find. But yeah, police responders, people that are kind of in that line of work that obviously their life could be on the line each day they go to work. So. And so they're getting into this kind of religion and this, yeah, I mean, like I said, I don't have a religion. I do believe there's something after death, but yeah. Yeah, let me know what you guys think. But to me, that just explaining the patches and stuff, because I know people have made a big deal. Obviously, the Frank's Motion made a big deal of them. And obviously it all kind of depends on where you sit with Rich and Allen's case. But obviously there was Department of Corrections officers that were interviewed. There was some that obviously were wearing them. Now they can't anymore, at least there. I don't know if that's everywhere, but so yeah. Now for the just latest updates with the court system stuff, which is obviously there's plenty of channels that with lawyers that could explain it way better than I. But here is from the local news. I think this came out today or yesterday. This is basically just a 3-minute update of everything, and I think they explain it just in the layman's terms perfectly. So we'll go ahead and play that, and then we'll get into some comments, and then there's some things I wanted to share with you. But we got 365 people in here. Thank you guys so much. If you're just tuning in, please hit that like button. Really appreciate it.
Bob Siegel joins us now to break all this down.
And Bob, you've been reading through her filing for about an hour now. What'd you learn?
Yeah, well, in this 23-page filing that was just filed with the Indiana Supreme Court, attorneys for the Delphi judge argue
and
the Supreme Court should...
not to stop, I'm sorry to stop that, but Sharon, that is so true. So here in Utah, we have Mormons. I was born and raised here in Utah. I love Utah. It's a great city, Salt Lake City, great state. But yeah, we're the religion here is Mormon heavy. But they do get a bad rep because you think of people like Warren Jeffs and but what people will mix up is there's LDS and then there's the FLDS. The FLDS were the original, but then turned extremist, where they got to have 7 wives, and they're doing really really terrible stuff, and they make the regular LDS, the regular Mormon religion, look bad because they see people like Warren Jeffs marrying underage, and so yeah, it's like I said, it's Yeah, it's just bad apples that unfortunately ruin it for the rest.
Not get involved in the case. They say there is no need for the justices to intervene because Richard Allen has a right to appeal to other lower courts. So the Supreme Court
Isn't the LDS? No, it's FLDS.
should not weigh in. Attorneys for Judge Francis Gall say the special judge did not violate Allen's rights by removing his original defense team. They say the judge acted well within her discretion to remove Baldwin and Rosie over Allen's objections. The record supports that the trial court could reasonably conclude Baldwin and Rosie committed multiple violations of the rules of professional conduct, compromised Allen's defense, and that the totality of the circumstances demonstrated gross negligence and incompetence on the part of the defense team. The judge also argues she should not be disqualified or removed from the case because she has not shown any bias or prejudice toward Allen or any of his attorneys. Now, of course, Allen and his original attorneys, they disagree, and that's why civil attorneys for Allen want the Supreme Court to step in. They want the High Court to immediately reinstate the original defense team, to remove Gall and to appoint a new special judge, and they want justices to set a new trial date within 70 days. In today's filing, the judge told the court they should not intervene with a new trial date. Allen's trial is currently set for next October. By the way, the Attorney General's office, they also filed its own brief today, also asking the court not to intervene. The AG says Allen should first appeal to a trial court rather than taking his request directly up to the state's highest court. So at this point, the Supreme Court will decide whether to get involved. It's not clear how long that will take for that decision to come, but the decision will be extremely significant in determining who will preside over the trial and who will be helping Richard Allen as his defense as all of these proceedings move forward.
My
Okay.
goodness.
I know, it's a lot to
Every day.
unpack.
Yeah.
Every day something new.
It is.
Okay, thank you.
It is a lot, but I think that's fairly well explained because there's all these documents that were coming out Monday and even from last week as well. And like I said, that's a little over my little bit out of my wheelhouse when it comes to the law stuff. But anyway, so in short, apparently the Supreme Court will make a decision, I guess, but they said they didn't know when. And then they also mentioned that as far as the lawyers, they went to the Supreme Court when they should have went to the upper trial court system. But like I said, that's a little bit out of my wheelhouse when it comes to that. But yeah, so that's kind of the updates on that. So they're just kind of waiting for the Supreme Court to rule on, which so far it doesn't appear to be anything in Richard Allen's favor. It seems to be that they're lining up with Judge Gold, and I think we all want justice for Abby and Libby. And we want Richard Allen to have a fair trial. I think we can all agree on that. As far as Judge Gold, I rather not talk much about that, because I know a lot of people stand on different sides and feel very strongly on one side or the other, and I think it divides the chat. So we'll move on from there, but I thought we'd give those updates for if you were just wondering what is going on with the latest with the trial. But as far as we know, he's got 2 new attorneys. Be interesting to know if they, if nothing changes, which may appear to be the case. Moving on, he'll have to now have these lawyers, whether he likes it or not, the new appointed attorneys. And his trial is now set for October. So we've got 11 months to go, which is crazy, because we were literally going to be just about a month out from the trial. It's crazy. You can email me. My mods would be happy to put my email in the description. There you All right. So a couple of things that I did uncover. It's nothing huge, but if you haven't been here, one of the theories I had in talking about uh, one of the witnesses who I think may be probably a big witness for the defense, depending, and that's Betsy Blair. She's the one that, let's see, let me get my thing set up here. But there was something that she stated that really, that I missed, of course, because every time you go back and look at the probable cause, there's always little nuggets of info that kind of stick out to me that I missed before. So let's see. Anyway, so Judge Gold, or Judge Gold, I just read the comments. Betsy, the witness, who is kind of an anomaly. So when it comes to the suspicious vehicles, we had three witnesses, two male, and then Betsy. I know we've talked about this, but I'm going to lead up into the new thing that I uncovered. But, um, you know, uh, the two male witnesses, they line up seeing something small like a PTS cruiser. Keep in mind, with the smart car and the PT cruiser, they don't specifically say it's a smart car or PT cruiser. They say something that looks like that kind of vehicle. Um, and so the first witness is at 210 as they're leaving. They see it backed in. And then we have Betsy Blair at 2:15, who just got done with her walk and left. And she claims to see a 65 Ford Comet, which is obviously a Mercury Comet, which is much different from a dark smart car and a PT Cruiser. Even the front build of it looks completely different. So it's really an anomaly that she sees this car, and I doubt there would be three cars that backed up within 20 minutes or less of each other in that same spot suspiciously, and all left. I think there was one car there the entire time. So how could she get it? How could her description be so off from the other three? And I do have a theory on that, and I've got more to back that up. Um, and here's just kind of a look. When you take all the statements, not all the witnesses describe the same exact thing. Most of the witnesses line up, but you do have an anomaly like Raleigh here, who everybody else is blue and blue jacket, blue jeans, but you do have one of the juvenile witnesses who uses all black. So, not everybody's perfect in their memory, is basically the point of that. But I had a theory, is that it sounds like Betsy, and of course, not only did she see the Ford Comet, but she also is the one that came up with the Young Guy sketch, which is huge, because they literally changed. In 2019, they had that press conference and literally put aside the first sketch, and this became primary sketch, which really confused a lot of people because not just the look but the age. I think the age is the huge thing. Is that now we're kind of looking for a younger guy or an older guy that can appear younger. So it definitely threw people off. I know the family was, I don't want to speak for them, but I know that they were quoted. They were kind of, it was like a gut punch, I think was a quote from them, because they were handing out all the flyers for the original sketch. And then, they were literally going out to different states to hand these flyers out with the original sketch. And then they get word that, now this is the primary sketch. So anyway, as I've been sharing with you the last week and a half, that I believe it sounds like Betsy, with reading her statements, it sounds like Betsy frequents this trail. And once again, there was something that I noticed in her statement that I missed before or just kind of overlooked that even adds more to that, that actually, because my theory is I think she had seen somebody maybe who even owned that car. Those two, maybe this sketch and that car are connected, but just not on the same day. And so because she claims she's confident in this sketch. She says it's a 10 out of 10, but obviously this looks nothing like Alan. So again, I went back to the probable cause affidavit just to look for more nuggets of stuff. And so I'll read this one thing here in just a second. But clearly in this statement below here, you can see that she had said that it's not odd for vehicles to be parked there, but it was odd that it was backed up near the building. So, and then she also continues to say, she said that vehicles often use the south edge of the parking lot so they are closer to the trail to get to Freedom Bridge. So it's clear she knows what's normal and what's not when it comes to people being in that area. So it's clear she's familiar and most likely frequents this trail. And then here was something that really, I can't believe I missed this, or just I've read it, but it just didn't hit me until today. Here is her statement. Let me know what you guys think about this. An individual named by Betsy Blair. This is at the very beginning of her statement. Betsy Blair, comma, was returning to the trails to finish her walk. What do you guys think that means in the chat? Betsy Blair was returning to the trails to finish her walk. That's kind of in the opening statement, I guess, from her interview, is that she was returning to the trails to finish her walk. Curious to know what you guys think. Yeah, I think so too. For sure. Yeah, I mean, if there's a strange guy you don't know, yeah, I totally agree. Um, but just curious to let me know what you guys think about this one here, because I have a theory, which adds more into what I've been saying. Exactly. Thank you, Sensei. Thank you. Sounds like she had been to the trails, left, and came back. She was at the trails, left, and came back. So, would it be hard to think that she had done the same thing? Maybe she likes to go there a couple times, a week, maybe even more. And maybe she wants to walk across that bridge, but maybe there was a guy there. Who knows? And so, or maybe something came up. But to me, it sounds like she was there earlier that day. And would it be hard to believe that she saw the Mercury Comet earlier that day, parked in that similar area, and also ran into this young guy earlier that day? And so these two are connected and may have happened that same day, and that's why it's so fresh and she's so confident. But it was the first time she was there. I mean, it's such an interesting statement. Was returning to the trails to finish her walk. I mean, to me that sounds like she was there before. I mean, that's what I'm getting from the statement. Angel, curious, where had she been if she was returning? Good question. Good question. No, I know. Betsy Blair is seen on the video. Yeah, I know. She's then they're gonna talk about her arriving and seeing the girls. But no, she's saying that she's returning to the trails to finish her walk. She's coming back. This is at the very beginning of her statement. So yeah, I understand that then she's gonna be traveling. But in her words, she's saying she's returning to the trails to finish her walk. And then we look at other statements. She knows what's odd and what's not where cars are parked. It's clear this lady, this witness, frequents this place. And to me, in that statement, I think she was there earlier that day. I mean, how else would you put it? She had to pee, in my opinion. Yeah, actually, that's quite possible, for sure. Yeah. But so basically, the point I'm getting at is clearly it sounds like she was there earlier. And just to go into my theory more, that I think these are connected, and she could have seen him that day. But she's just mistaking two incidences, and she's going off the first one, whereas the second one obviously was more relevant. Who knows? Maybe this guy, if it was, let's just say in theory, it was all connected. Maybe this guy could be the catfish guy. I mean, you could go. Although, like I said, I like to stick with the evidence and facts and statements. That's what we try to do here. I mean, we do still try to base theories off some of these stuff, but just, an idea. No, I see what you're saying, Abel. She was below the bridge, then returned to the trail to finish her walk. She was below the bridge. Yeah, she was below the bridge and drove past. So she's driving, but she uses the word she's returning to the trails. Let's look at the map. Let me pull this up here in just a second. And then I got a little bit more as well with the one of the witnesses and the height here. But I guess we'll just plug that in real quick. But yeah, so she was plug this in. So here's the bridge. She was driving under this where she sees the four juveniles. So yeah, she was driving under the bridge. It said, but she's returning to the trails to finish her walk. Returning to the trails to finish her walk. So yeah, she clearly, to me, it sounds like she left and then she's coming back. Yeah, I mean, I've read it. Yeah, I mean, I literally broke everything down. Here, we'll read. Oh no, I put it away. Yeah, we'll do that. Give me a second. Where are you? There it is. Okay. Show in folder. Boop. Okay, right. Let me pull this up a little bit more so you guys can read it as well. Okay, let's see. Let's start right there. Okay, investigators spoke with Betsy, who advised she was on the trails February 3rd. Interesting. Right there. Starts off. She advised she was on the trails February 13th. Video of whose star captures vehicle traveling eastbound at 146 towards the entrance. Betsy advised she saw 4 juvenile females walking on the bridge as she was driving underneath on the way to park. Betsy advised there was no other cars at the Mears parking lot. She advised she had walked the Monon Bridge and observed a male matching one from victim two's video. She described the male, white male. She advised she turned around at the bridge, continued her walk. Halfway between the bridge, that's when she passed the 2 girls. Where is her statement, though? Where it comes back in. No, that's where the firearm. Advise girls encounter investigate. Anyway, I don't know. I'm gonna move on. I can't find that other part where they talk about it, but I get what you're saying. But to me, that sounds like what she's saying. She's returning to the trails. She clearly saying that as she's in her vehicle. She's returning to the trails to finish her walk. So, if you're returning to something, you were there before, right? I mean, that's how I would interpret it. But like I said, I could be wrong. I could totally be wrong. But anyway, the main thing is I think she definitely frequents that area. And the main point is I think it's totally a possibility that she had seen that Mercury comet, which does not line up with anybody else. And if that's a mistake, then it's quite a possibility that this young guy sketch is true, but just happened either earlier that day or a day prior, is my point. Oh, Dom, did you? Oh, thank you so much. Awesome. Thank you so much, although it doesn't tell me right now. Thank you so much, Dom, for the donation. Really helps. Put a lot of time and work into this and supporting this channel. This is my job. During the winter time, we don't get to go out and look for the missing because it's kind of tough with the winter. But yeah, we use that to support victims and really appreciate it. Sorry, Abel, I'm going to move on. But I appreciate your I will read it when I can find it because I don't want to spend too much time because I want to move on from that. But anyway, the other thing that I wanted to talk about is the witnesses describing the height. So let me get over to this. So one of the victims was Bree. Now I sketched out her face, even though it's not hard to find some of the juveniles. Luckily, I think a lot of them are actually hard to find, but because Kelsey and Bree, they are, like I said, I believe her brother, they're connected through like a boyfriend at the time or something like that. So they were good friends. Kelsey and Bree, obviously, there's a lot of photos of those two together. So, in one of the statements with Bree, she says she's wearing baggy jeans, was taller than her. She stated her head came up approximately to his shoulder. So, here is Kelsey and Libby. Now, at the time, they stated that Libby was 5'4". I think both girls were stated as 5'4". Now we don't know how accurate. It could be off an inch, we know that from like many cases where the height is never actually correct. It's either, a couple inches above or below. So you have to always take the height with a little bit of grain of salt. But if anybody has followed this case knows, Kelsey, she's not very tall. She's not very tall. And many pictures that you see with Kelsey and Libby, it's tough. Sometimes I've seen one where Libby looks slightly taller than Kelsey, and then I've seen one that looks Kelsey's slightly taller than Libby. But you never know what shoes they're wearing. It could play a huge deal. But for the most part, they appear to be fairly close in height. So what I'm getting at is, in theory, they're not very tall. I would say probably 5'3", 5'4", around in there. So here is Kelsey and Bree. Now, as we can see, they're, I think, around the same height, even though it looks like Kelsey's slightly a little bit taller than Bree. But there's also another picture where Bree slightly looks a little bit taller than Kelsey, so I think they're about the same height. So what I'm getting at is, if, that's just to say in theory, Libby is 5'4", Kelsey's about the same. If Kelsey is the same as Libby, 5'4", looks like Bree is about the same, 5'4". So, the man is slightly, well, not slightly, but she says taller than her. Her head came approximately to his shoulders. So, if they're kind of on the shorter end, obviously they're juveniles, so they're not going to be fully grown. So it sounds like it's quite possible this guy wasn't that tall. And then to use the statement that her head came to his shoulder, I wonder, did the suspect really get that close to the victims? Because I would assume he would try to kind of, especially he wouldn't want to be identified, so he would really try to kind of go out of his way to kind of keep from being identified. So, when you're trying to match up somebody's height, but to make a statement, she says approximately his shoulder. So, I mean, could be that it's a little bit closer to his height. And then obviously another statement is from one of the girls is she used the word, he's not very tall, which I think we both agree is a nice way of saying that he appeared short. So anyway, that's another thing that I wanted to point out is that that these girls are not very tall, even though that they do say that the guy is taller than them. I wouldn't put too much behind that, considering their height obviously wouldn't be very it wouldn't be very tall at that time. And also, if the guy was wearing boots and then he's wearing a hoodie on top of that, which would obviously conceal his height a little bit more, and if he had his head down, it'd be really hard to get a very accurate estimation of the person's height. But that's just my opinion. Let's see. Oh, that's true. Yeah, so many variables. The ground could be uneven. That is very true, as a matter of fact. Let's see.
Back on February of 2006.
Just curious. You said that. So here is, let me just fix this just a little bit here. Yeah, it's tough to tell. I mean, it does look kind of even. Yeah, it's interesting though. Now the walk, as you noticed, so this is kind of level. the most part, looks pretty level. But if he walked past pretty quickly, and then it's like, okay, one tried to say hi, and like I said, this guy's on the move, so I doubt they had a lot of time to, pull out the measuring tape, and stuff like that. So they're really kind of just going off their memory of something that probably happened within like 10 seconds, especially if he was hoofing it. And then it also looks like the trail does actually, so if you notice, the trail does actually incline. So, he kind of goes walking past. They're kind of standing, on the other side of this. They're kind of grouped up over here, or maybe even here. It does actually, now you kind of look at it. It does look like, but it's nothing like huge. But what if they took a look back at him as he was walking up this trail? I mean, obviously, it's all theory and stuff, but I think with him going that fast, it'd be really hard to get like an accurate, approximation when it comes to a suspect's height. But all I know is just looking at some of them, it doesn't seem like some of the witnesses, obviously they're juveniles, so they're not going to be very tall. So going off, even though they say one of them says the man is taller, I don't know how much, stock you can put into it. So anyway, let's see. I think BG tied Abby and Libby's hands together in order to have some kind of control with that yellow rope. They mentioned yellow rope about something. That's interesting. Where did I hear that yellow rope at? Where was it? Photo, yellow rope tied to the tree. Confidential. Photo, yellow rope tied to the tree. Now, that could be that they tied yellow rope to the F tree. Like I said, there's so much more information that the public doesn't know that I think, when the trial does come, we're going to be in for a shock. I always say that because just like the Murdoch case, we got some really groundbreaking information just as that stuff came out. Yeah, Steve, he recently moved from Florida, or excuse me, from Georgia to Florida, had a new grandbaby, and so yeah, we miss having Steve on. I'm sure we'll have him on very soon. I'm sure, hopefully, maybe next Monday. But yeah, he's had a lot going on with the move, selling a home, buying a new home, and then with the birth of a new grandbaby. So much, I can't imagine. Tammy Walsh, thank you so much for the $2 super sticker. You are so awesome. Thank you so much. We do a lot of stuff on this channel. Of course, we cover Delphi, but we cover a lot of other cases. One thing that we do on this channel, if you're new, is we combine big cases with missing person posters. That's our big thing, is that I try to tie cases that are, quite widely known, that a lot of people are invested in, and then we introduce a recent missing person at the beginning of the show, and sometimes I'll feature them in the middle as well. And also I'll get to my conspiracy that I was into. So that way, if YouTube flags me, I can take it out at the end. But yeah, that's our main goal here. But I did want to cover the recent stuff with Murdoch, but I just didn't have enough time to grab everything that I wanted to.
I'm just looking at chat here. Jamie Robbins. It is suspected that Abby is in part of the video that Abby took at the bridge. The early still show part of her jacket. Please have that full video and can maybe figure out the suspect's height. I don't think they'll ever be able to with that video, and I explained that in a previous live. But yes, you're right. And what she's talking about is this thing right there. Oh. Oh, it's playing. That's why it's not doing it. Nope. Back. There you go. Gosh, took me a minute. Yeah, that's Abby's jacket getting in the way of that. Yeah, we kind of talked about that in a couple of previous lives. That's when we learned about what was supposedly said in the 43-second video, which was kind of really interesting to learn. And that was talked about back in like 2018, 2019, and most of that stuff came true, which is really amazing. Thank you, Dom, so much. Good to see you, and thank you so much for the donation for the PayPal. Like I said, this is my job, so anything helps. Thank you guys so much. But yeah, if you're wondering, if you hadn't heard me talk about it, obviously I can't take credit for it, but the family obviously heard the 43 seconds, and really it just starts out with the girls talking about girl stuff. Abby is obviously walking towards Libby because she's still apparently still kind of crossing the bridge the last little bit of it. Obviously, while this is going on, clearly Libby had seen this guy, and I'm sure he was probably making quite a bit of headway, so I'm sure that's probably why she pulled the phone out, is because he clearly something felt wrong with Libby. And anyway, so they're talking about girl stuff, and then there's also the mention, and this would probably be at the beginning, I would assume, is one of them says, "Is that the creepy guy again?" And then that's when Abby says, "Is that a gun? Oh my gosh, she's got a gun." And then that's when Bridge Guy says his first words, and apparently he says, "Hey guys," but we only get guys. And then that's right after he cocks the gun, which is why it's guys, and then it's split up with something else. And then apparently he approaches. There's probably some other things that are said, but we don't know. But then the last few words is "down the hill." So that's what was kind of released through YouTube interview with the family with a certain YouTuber. But Sensei, thanks for your dedication and hard work. Thank you so much, Sensei. Means the world to me. Thank you so much for your amazing support. Lori, who was the last person to have communicated with Libby on her phone via social media before they went to the bridge? That's a great question. We don't know, but there's speculation. Was it Kagan? Was it Kagan's Anthony Shot account, or was it somebody else? So many theories when it comes to that. And is that why they went searching for the Kagan route? Is because they believed someone lured the girls out there. So anyway, I think I'm going to go ahead and finish up. They arrested Del Warner for the murder of D. I'll be able to go to the trial to the courthouse. It's 4 blocks from my house. Justice for D. Never heard of that, but sounds great. Glad you get to show up and show up for the victims. I'll have to look at that, Del Warner. Yeah, it'd be interesting. But it's gonna be hard though. You got to keep in mind that let's hopefully there's more words from that guy, from the suspect on the bridge, because um, you'd really have to take to really like get it accurate. You'd want like probably Richard Allen to be up on that bridge and have somebody with a cell phone to really kind of match it 1 to 1, if you know what I'm saying. But yes, it would help to have um, his voice. Chris, you said, oh yeah, now I want to finish with my conspiracy if you're interested. It's nothing like crazy, but you said in your reenactment video that BG went home from trails same way he came. Pretty rather say he went other way. You said in the reenactment video BG went home. Um, oh, I see what you're saying. Okay, so this is what I was saying for that.
Back on February of 2000.
Right here. I'm assuming this is what you're talking about. So, Richard Allen's vehicle was caught on the camera, or a black Ford Focus, depending on where you sit, at 1:27 p.m., right? Now, it's going westbound, which is kind of weird considering if Allen came from home, you would think he would just take the 6-minute route and he would actually never been seen on the camera, period, because he would have just came around this way, the same way that Betsy Blair came. And instead of parking at Mears, obviously he parked at the CPS building here. So, assuming he came from his house, you would think the most optimal route, he would take the 6 minutes, would be this one. But if that's his car, and that was Richard Allen going westbound at 127, well, the only way to get there, at least from the house, he's got to go this way. This is the closest route because you've got the river, and then all this, everything east, like Delphi, this is like most of Delphi. This is like, Delphi is small. So you got Delphi right here. Everything east, kind of north, east, and southeast, it's all farm. It's all open land. There's nothing. So to me, either he came from the house or who knows, but either way, he would have had to have come at the very least down this road to be captured on this at 127. If that makes sense. And then also just one more thing is, if he was there from noon to 1:30, these girls were there from, at the very least, from noon to like 1:30. So these witnesses, I'm sure, obviously going to be questioned by the defense, but for Allen to be there from 12 to 1:30, these girls are wandering to and from between basically 12:30 and 1:30, or between noon and 1:30, if you think about it. So these girls could be huge because they'll say, no, there was no adult male walking that during from noon to 1:30 until we ran into the guy at 1:26. So, no, not that we know of. But it would probably just make sense that he probably wouldn't want to go. I think he saw the camera when he was coming back. In my opinion, I think when he was walking this way, he saw the camera and was like, "Oh, shnikes!" Well, or that and the witness driving past, I'm sure freaked him out and decided to cut through the trees. So that could have been it. But, yeah, it clearly wouldn't make sense. I mean, if you were going to leave, you were going to probably want to get on this highway. And the best way to do that is to go up here, take this old state, and then the entrance.
is right here, I think. I think that's the entrance to it. To the Hoosier Highway. So anyway, my conspiracy that I got into was 9/11. I was not like huge, like obsessed, but there was just many things with 911 that I was certainly like went down the rabbit hole. So I just watched one video, and then one video leads into the next video, and then it just really started. I went down the rabbit hole. Now I never believed that like our government, was in on 911, but there was just things that just didn't ever add up. The biggest one I would say is the third tower going down, which some people still don't know about, or forget, I should say. It's so weird that 3 towers went down that way. And the biggest one was, the fact that they all kind of, or at least what was it? WC 5 or 7, I forget, building 7. The way it went down, just the demolition style way it went down was, it so just looked like a demolition, and so I was stuck on that for years. It was creepy, really creepy. So yeah, I still have questions with that. Like I said, I don't think our own government, but there's some weird. Yeah, building 7. Yeah, sometimes they say 5, but yeah, building 7. It's just so weird because it's like, how did small little office fires take down that building? It's so weird. Yeah, oh yeah, I know. I've been down at Thermite, the V structured cuts. Oh, I've been down it all. Oh my gosh. It's it was bad. But there's some weird things in that. When it comes to that, I do can't deny it. But rainy days, it sounds like a lot of people. Yeah, there's some weird things for sure. Anyway, all right, I'm going to finish up. One thing I wanted to say, thank you to everybody to take the time to watch the show. I really appreciate it. What was I going to say? The pet thing. If you sent pictures of your pet, if I haven't responded to you, don't freak out. I usually grab all the pet pictures all at once. I used to do them like as they came in, but then sometimes I'll miss somebody's pet. So it's much easier just when I grab them, I just type in pets or pet, and usually all your emails just pull up together, and so I can get them. So I think we have room for like a couple more. So if you're new to the show and you want a picture of your pet featured at the end of the show, just email me with the picture of your pet and the name, and we'll get it, put it in. Thank you, Gail. Thank you to all my mods, of course. I think I saw Jennifer in here. I wanted to shout her out. I hope you're doing well. Thank you, Karen. Thank you, Dee. Thank you, Jocelyn. Copper Horse, my amazing mods. We're gonna try to do something this coming month, December, for the mods. So yeah, there's pilots, architects. Oh yeah, they've got websites and stuff, and I've been down. Yep, I've been on those websites. There's definitely some weird things for sure. But I know you have to kind of be careful, especially with YouTube, because certain words will trigger certain things, I guess. So anyway, hope you guys had a wonderful Wednesday. We will be back. I'm actually gonna probably do a show tomorrow because I missed a lot at the beginning of the month, and like I said, this is my income. This is my job. So we'll probably be doing a show tomorrow because it's the last day of the month. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and get the outro ready. And thank you guys again so much. And we'll see you guys tomorrow.